would like to announce the arrival of His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, represented this morning by His Excellency, the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the national anthem. His Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, duly represented today by His Excellency, the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, GCON-SAN. His Excellency, President Muhammadu Isufu, President of Niger, Chairman of the Heads of State and Government of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, Representative of the United Nations, the Secretary General, Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, Excellency Director General of UNESCO, represented, Excellency Nigeria's Ambassador to UNESCO, Hajia Mariam Katagum, other excellencies and heads of UN bodies here present, members of the Nigerian National Assembly, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, Honorable Minister of Water Resources, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Defense Minister, Honorable Minister of the FCT, members of the Nigerian Federal Executive Council, representative of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Permanent Secretary Dayo Akpata, Executive Secretary, Lake Chad Basin Commission, Engineer Sanusi Imran Abdullahi, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Water Resources, Dr. Musa, heads of government and extra-ministerial department, members of the diplomatic corps, speakers, stakeholders, partners, sponsors, members of the local organizing committee, my lords, spiritual and temporal, delegates from all over the world, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Eugenia Abu, brand and media strategy expert and broadcaster. I shall be your guide through this first session of this conference and the opening ceremony. I'm here today with Mr. Bigang, who is a conference interpreter, and national broadcaster, Mr. Cyril Stober. The Lake Chad is an essential source of water resources, Your Excellencies, for fishermen, livestock farmers, and farmers. And at the moment, it is threatened, which is the reason why we are all gathered here today for this important international conference on Lake Chad. It is an essential source of water resource for fishermen, and it is also a freshwater body, which is a source of water supply for many countries across the sub-region. And in the socio-cultural environment, it contributes to the rich diversity of the region. It is facing a myriad of problems, from depletion of its national resources to drought and diverse effects of climate change. These multiple threats is why we are all here today. It contributes 8% of the total size of the African continent. Excellence, Monsieur le Président de Nigeria, Excellence, Monsieur le Président, délégués, mes amis ici présents, Madame, Mademoiselle et Monsieur. Je m'appelle Eugénie Abou, je suis présentatrice et stratégiste de communication. Je travaille aujourd'hui avec présentatrice nationale, M. Cyril Stoba. Nous travaillons aussi avec M. Honoré Bingham, interpret the conference. I'd like to thank you, and at this point, I'd like to invite Mr. Cyril Stoba to do the honors.
Thank you very much, Eugenia. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, I join my colleague in welcoming you to this international conference. We are here to just provide a guideline of what's going to happen here, a rather simple task here. Once again, welcome to this conference, Honoré.
Excellences, Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles, Messieurs, Excellence, Son Excellence le vice-président de la République du Nigeria, qui représente valablement Son Excellence le président de la République du Nigeria, le Monsieur Mohamed Amadou. Et nous nous associons à ce que Madame vient de dire, et je suis sûr que parce que les interprètes sont avec nous ici, qu'ils ont pris les dispositions idoines pour interpréter ce qu'elle venait de dire, donc je ne reviendrai pas là-dessus. Je suis interprète de conférence, mais aujourd'hui, j'officie comme maître de cérémonie. Nous vous souhaitons la bienvenue dans cette grande ville et belle ville verdoyante de la capitale du Nigeria, et nous estimons et pensons que nous allons passer de bons moments ensemble. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me now invite Nigeria's Minister of Water Resources, Engineer Suleiman H. Adamu, Fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, to now come forward and formally welcome you to this conference. Minister.
Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, ably represented here by His Excellency, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, GCON, SAN. Your Excellencies, representatives of heads of state and government, distinguished delegates and experts, Your Excellencies, members of UN agencies, development partners, other technical and financial partners, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this international conference on saving the Lake Chad to revitalize the basin's ecosystem for sustainable livelihood, security, and development. Indeed, it is gladdening to observe that a good number of those in attendance here today have over the years kept very strong faith with us, and we are greatly appreciative of your unalloyed support. I must of necessity convey our deepest appreciation to our President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, for his untiring support toward the resuscitation of the Lake Chad, which is further evident in the hosting of this conference. I know for a fact that it is the ultimate desire of President Buhari to see concrete steps taken to ensure that the lake is secure from extinction within the shortest possible time. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, the Lake Chad Basin is a transboundary basin stretching over 2.3 million square kilometers. It covers Nigeria, Chad, Niger, the Central African Republic, Algeria, Sudan, Cameroon, and Libya. The lake is the epicenter of human, animal, and plant life for the region. The Lake Chad Basin contains a variety of habitats, including deserts, shrub steppe, savannas, forests, lakes, wetlands, and mountains. United Nations Environmental Programme in 2006 reported that persistent drought and the ravages of a rapidly growing human population have decimated this 1/6 largest lake in the world. Over the past 4 decades, the lake's surface has reportedly shrunk from 25,000 square kilometers to a meager 2,500 square kilometers at some point. It is pertinent to mention that despite poverty and the security challenges in the Lake Chad area, this freshwater body is a source of water supply for drinking, fisheries, agriculture, and other socio-economic development activities. It also offers a unique social and cultural environment contributing to the rich diversity of the region. Lake Chad riparian populations have their cultural values, beliefs, and traditional practices shaped by their relationship with the natural environment and therefore influencing environmental sustainability. It is important to note that saving the Lake Chad in a sustainable manner is a task which requires the collaboration of all relevant stakeholders. Therefore, all hands must be on deck to save the lake from extinction. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are making history today at Transcorp Hilton, Abuja, Nigeria, as experts, friends of the Lake Chad, donors, etc., to deliberate on the salient issues of the Lake Chad and provide solutions to the sustainability and socio-economic development of the sub-region. On behalf of the government and people of Nigeria, I wholeheartedly welcome you to this august occasion and look forward to successful deliberations and workable recommendations for the consideration of the heads of state and government, donors, and development partners in due course. Nigeria has a history of warm hospitality to its guests in an event of such magnitude. So feel free to enjoy Abuja while you are here. Welcome, bienvenue.
Excellences, Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles, Messieurs, Excellences, Monsieur le Vice-président qui représente valablement son Excellence le Président de la République. Vous venez de suivre sans doute avec intérêt le discours inaugural de son Excellence, le ministre des Ressources en eau de la République fédérale du Nigeria. Il est revenu sur l'importance que son Excellence le Président Muhammadu Buhari attache au succès de cette conférence et des travaux qui vont démarrer d'un moment à l'autre. Il vous souhaite tous un bon séjour dans cette ville verdoyante qui est la capitale du Nigeria. Et il est revenu également sur l'hospitalité séculaire du Nigeria et espère que vous passerez un séjour très, très amical ici et que vous aurez, quand vous serez rentré à la maison, de meilleurs souvenirs sur l'hospitalité du peuple nigérien et de son gouvernement. Je vous remercie.
Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you heard it all from the Honorable Minister, who has invited us all to enjoy the scenic beauty of Abuja. But it's serious business that brings us together, and all of us are called to arms to help rescue Lake Chad. In the event that you're seeking for more information about Abuja and its scenic beauty, we're lucky this morning to have in our midst the Honorable Minister of the FCT, seated in the front row, so you can ask him all the questions you need to as an international member of humanity. Once again, Honorable Minister of Water, we thank you for your introduction and for setting the tone for this international conference. At this point, we'd like to take goodwill messages, and I'd like to start by inviting Her Excellency, Mrs. Mariam Katagum, Ambassador and Permanent Delegate of Nigeria to UNESCO, and my sister and friend. My French colleague will introduce you, and then you make your way to the podium.
Excellences, Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles, Messieurs, chers délégués, après le discours inaugural de son Excellence le ministre des Ressources en eau, Nous allons passer maintenant au message de bonne volonté. Et nous allons écouter le premier message de bonne volonté de Madame l'ambassadrice du Nigeria auprès de l'UNESCO à Paris. Je vous remercie.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibanjo, GCON, Honorable Ministers, the Director General, the Deputy Director General, UNESCO, Mr. Getachew Ngida, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm indeed proud and delighted to make a few remarks at this important event. As part of his initiative for the restoration of Lake Chad and bringing peace and development to the region, Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, during the visit of Ms. Irina Bokova, the former Director General of UNESCO, to Abuja in August 2016, invited UNESCO to coordinate relevant agencies in organizing an international conference on Lake Chad. This was an assignment to which UNESCO accorded the highest priority. The new Director General of UNESCO, Ms. Audrey Azoulay, has also demonstrated her commitment and that of the organization to ensure that UNESCO plays an important role in mobilizing partnerships for the reversal of the deterioration of the environment and the livelihood of the people of the Lake Chad Basin. As a sign of that commitment, we have here today with us the Deputy Director General of UNESCO, accompanied by the Assistant Director General for Africa, the Assistant Director General for the Natural Sciences, an impressive number of high-caliber experts drawn from different sectors of UNESCO. Your Excellency, let me also recall that at their 8th summit held in Abuja from 21st to 23rd March 1994, the heads of state and government of the Lake Chad Basin Commission approved the master plan to save Lake Chad and launched a campaign to save the lake as an effort to channel international assistance to meet the challenges facing the people of the basin as a result of the impact of global climate change. The Africa Development Bank, the FAO, UNESCO, and UNDP were the main agencies targeted in the international assistance program. Furthermore, in response to that mobilization, UNESCO and the Africa Development Bank have recently designed a multi-sectoral project, BioPALT, to address the urgency of safeguarding the biodiversity of the lake, relying on the traditional knowledge of the local population while aiming for a trans-boundary nomination for the UNESCO World Heritage List as a mixed site. Efforts will also be made to revitalize the traditional practices of the local population for the safeguarding of the Convention of Living Heritage. I would like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude both to the Africa Development Bank and UNESCO for their invaluable support in this endeavor. In line with these efforts, I'm proud to announce that Nigeria has spared no efforts to ensure that the Lake Chad is to be registered on Nigeria's tentative list to the World Heritage Convention, thereby paving the way to accelerate the nomination process of this priceless heritage of humanity. Your Excellencies, given the priority accorded to the Lake Chad Basin in the Africa Union Agenda 2063, it is hoped that this conference would propose an institutional mechanism for a long-term sustained effort, which will involve several agencies within the framework of a one UN program, with the participation of funding agencies. It is also our expectation that the conference will highlight lessons to be drawn from recent advances in science and the international efforts to reverse environmental deterioration of areas which have confronted problems similar to those faced by Lake Chad, such as the Aral Sea. While looking forward to the recommendations of this conference, I would like to reaffirm to His Excellency, Mr. President, that the permanent delegation of Nigeria to UNESCO, which has worked tirelessly to follow up on his directives to organize this conference, will continue to be committed to working with other stakeholder institutions on the follow-up of proposals that will bring concrete results for the Lake Chad Basin. In particular, the delegation will ensure that some of the recommendations of the conference are integrated in the new phase of the Nigeria-UNESCO Special Plan of Cooperation, for which a UNESCO technical mission is being fielded from 5th to 6th March 2018. Finally, let me warmly congratulate the Honorable Minister of Water Resources and his team, the Lake Chad Basin Commission, as well as all the experts, scientists, and development partners who have actively participated in planning this conference. I wish everyone very fruitful deliberations, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Would like to thank Her Excellency Mrs. Mariam Katagum, Ambassador and Permanent Delegate of Nigeria to UNESCO, and congratulate the UNESCO delegation, which is a very powerful one, led by the Deputy Director General to this event. We would like to thank you. And we have noted all the comments you've made about the work that the Africa Development Bank and UNESCO are doing towards the Lake Chad Basin. We thank you most sincerely. At this point, I'd like to invite the Director General of UNESCO for the keynote address, Saving the Lake Chad to Revitalize the Basin Ecosystem for Sustainable Livelihood, Security and Development. And I'd like to believe that the representative of the UNESCO Director General is here. Am I correct on that? Yes. And I'd like to please ask you to make your way to the podium as my colleague announces your presence.
Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles, Messieurs, chers délégués, Excellences, je crois que l'orateur est déjà presque sur le podium. Il représente le directeur général de l'UNESCO à Paris. Il va certainement nous entretenir d'un programme que l'UNESCO prépare pour la région du lac Tchad. Je vous remercie.
His Excellency Professor Remi Oshibanjo, Vice President of the Republic of Nigeria, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. Thank you to the government of Nigeria and the Secretariat of the International Commission for the Lake of Chad for having taken the initiative of hosting this important event. This conference comes at a critical time. Lake Chad, ladies and gentlemen, is dwindling. The effects of climate change, population growth, and instability have reduced the lake by some 90% over the past 3 decades. Fragile ecosystems are being destroyed. The floodplains, the forests, the riverbanks, disrupting the entire ecosystem of the basin, flora, fauna, and human. Ensuring the health of the basin is an ecological issue. In consequence, we are also facing a humanitarian and security issue, which reach deep into the communities that are dependent on this ecosystem. Between 80 and 90% of the population depends on agriculture, fisheries, and livestock for their livelihoods. Nearly 7 million people in the area were facing food insecurity in the last lean season. When livelihoods are threatened, insecurity follows in its wake. The region is already facing the scourge of extremist groups reigning terror amongst its populations. The figures are alarming. Nearly 2.5 million people in the region have been displaced. We need to act now, and act now to break the cycle of ecological disaster, livelihood disruption, and political upheaval, which leads to some ecological disaster. Only by working collectively can we overcome these challenges to achieve the long-term peace and prosperity in the region we all want. UNESCO has some 20 years of experience in working in the region. We will continue to support countries through our expertise, not only in sciences, but also in culture, education, and communication to develop innovative solutions. Later today, I will officially launch BioPlats, the Biosphere and Heritage of Lake Chad project. This project will train local scientists in the cutting-edge image technologies to track changes in the environment. On the basis of these findings, we will pilot innovative projects for the restoration of damaged ecosystems, including the forest home of several endangered species and the nesting spots of dozens of species of migratory birds. UNESCO's International Hydrological Program will support Chad, Cameroon, and Nigeria in integrating the African flood and drought monitor system to ensure more agile coping mechanisms for seasonal variations. This will build on the work that we are already doing through the International Hydrological Program at the Regional Center in Kaduna in Nigeria to deepen our understanding of the aquifers of the basin. We will work with partners to protect the Uri cow, which for generations has been emblematic of the people of Lake Chad region and which is now under threat of extinction, because protecting the environment and the way of life is both a scientific and a cultural effort. Like Chad is as much steeped in the history of humanity as it is in the waters of Chari, Logone, and Yobe rivers which it forms it. It was once home to one of the oldest known ancestors, Tumai, who walked this shore 7 million years ago. The basin is already home to 2 World Heritage Sites in the Central African Republic and Chad, as well as 2 biosphere reserves, including the Waza National Park in Cameroon, one of the oldest national parks of the African continent, and the National Park of Bamingui Bangoran in the Central African Republic, the first park to be created to protect the black rhino. These steps already show the commitment of countries in the region to protect the environment and the ecosystem. This is why UNESCO, through BioPalt, will support all the governments of the region to prepare the way for recognizing new transboundary sites of the basin as a UNESCO World Heritage Sites and Biosphere Reserves to promote cross-border cooperation, reconciliation and resilience, and ultimately durable peace. We will also continue to provide training through our negotiation program called From Potential Conflict to Cooperation Potential. Given the complexity of the challenge at hand, ladies and gentlemen, BioPalt is part of the larger UNESCO strategy for sustainable development in the region. Education, of course, is key to ensuring sustainable solutions to the problem of the basin. According to the latest figures from the Global Partnership for Education, 2/3 of children are out of school and over 90% of adults are illiterate in the Lake Chad region. Without quality education, without technical training, many youths find themselves deprived of future prospects, which makes them more vulnerable to the propaganda of extremist groups. This is why UNESCO is working with these countries to develop new curricula and train educators. Girls and women education is also a key priority for UNESCO, which is why we have launched a pilot project entitled Empowering Girls and Women in Literacy and Skills Development in the state of Bauchi, northeastern Nigeria. 90,000 young women have learned to read and write, while as 20,000 young girls have built up their technical skills in information and communication technologies. UNESCO is dedicated to support the governments of the countries bordering the Lake Chad in their fight against extremism and terrorism, which is why we will work together for the implementation of the program in the prevention of violent extremism and radicalization to strengthen the resilience of the young facing the temptation of extremism and respect the diversity of cultures cohabiting the area. This commitment is part of the United Nations Secretary General's Action Plan for the prevention of violent extremism in the Sahel region and will complement the program for the prevention of radicalization launched by the Nigerian government just weeks ago. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, dans notre route contre le changement climatique, le lac Chad est en ligne de front. En travaillant En réfléchissant ensemble, cependant, nous avons le pouvoir de constituer un laboratoire d'idées pour trouver des solutions et nous adapter de façon innovante à ces conséquences néfastes. L'agenda 2030 des Nations Unies pour le développement durable est un appel à l'action collective pour éradiquer la pauvreté et lutter contre le changement climatique. C'est dans cet esprit que l'UNESCO offrira son expertise et ses moyens de coordination pour relever les formidables défis qui sont devant nous. Parce que restaurer les lacs Tchad est un impératif que nous concerne toutes et tous. Parce que sans les lacs Tchad, l'Afrique serait plus pauvre. Le monde serait différent. Ces eaux qui complètent parmi les plus importantes voies navigables d'Afrique, offrent une opportunité unique d'échanger et de relations entre communautés par-delà la frontière. Notre responsabilité collective est de restaurer le lac Tchad dans sa richesse et son environnement d'hier, lorsqu'il était la source et l'habitant d'une vie fusionnante. Ce n'est qu'ainsi que sera aussi restaurée la fierté des hommes et des femmes du lac Tchad et celle de l'humanité entière dont il est le patrimoine commun. Je vous remercie. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just listen to the address of the UNESCO Director General, and standing in for the Director General who just delivered that address was Getachew Njida, the Deputy Director General of UNESCO. Thank you very much. Now, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we still have at this point in time an overview saving the Lake Chad prospects, challenges, and opportunities. And this will be by Engineer Sanusi Imam Abdullahi, Fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and Executive Secretary of the Lake Chad Basin Commission. Let's welcome him.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, GCFR San, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to stand on the established existing protocol. Let me start this keynote address by recalling two important events that happened 55 years ago. On the 25th of May, 1963, in Addis Ababa, 33 African heads of states and government formed the Organization of the African Union, or AU, with high hopes for rapid political independence, peace, security, economic cooperation, development, and a better life for the African people. The then president of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, in a speech at the meeting said, I quote, "Our continent certainly exceeds all the other continents in the potential for hydroelectric power, which some experts assess as 42% of the world's total. Sadly, 55 years ago, after this speech, most countries of sub-Saharan Africa have less than 60% access to electricity in their countries. In the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, a country with the highest potential for hydropower generation, only 16% of the country or the population has access to electricity. In Niger, in the Sahel, only 12% have access to electricity. A year after the creation of the Organization of the African Union, precisely on the 22nd of May 1964, at Fort Lamy, now known as N'Djamena, the Lake Chad Basin Commission was created with equally high hopes. At the creation of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, the Commission was expected to help an estimated population of about 11 million people to sustainably manage the Lake Chad and the basin's ecosystem. There was adequate water for development for the population and the biodiversity, and the surface area of the Lake Chad then was estimated at 25,000 square kilometers. Today, the Lake Chad region is the largest humanitarian crisis in the world, with 7 million displaced persons and about 2 million people depending on humanitarian assistance, and the region has the highest poverty, illiteracy, and birth rate in the world. Without education, energy, and infrastructure, no nation will be out of poverty and misery. 44 years after the creation of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, the basin is still characterized by steadily increasing population and drought. The population of the present conventional basin experienced triple increase in population, that the population was estimated at 31 million in the year 2000 and 40 million in the year 2010. The population is projected to be 50 million in 2020 and 62 million in 2030. As the population growth rate increases every decade, the Lake Chad Basin is at the same time undergoing severe droughts, famine, water distribution problems, humanitarian challenges, diseases, and many other negative consequences of climate change. The consequences of these negative factors meant that local population must move or risk property destruction or even death. As population groups migrate, to minimize these risks, the chances for conflict increases among and between ethnic groups based on social, cultural, economic, and sometimes religious differences. These changes that have occurred in the past 54 years in the Lake Chad Conventional Basin, principally because of global change and augmented by population increase, might be responsible for the accumulation of social tension, which could have resulted in the outbreak of violent extremism that we are facing and the migration of our young people to Europe. In 1992, a decision was taken to develop a master plan for the Lake Chad Basin to include establishment of an environmentally sound management of the natural resources of the Lake Chad Conventional Basin. The feasibility study for the water transfer from the Congo Basin to the Lake Chad was the second priority project out of the 36 projects selected to be implemented under the LCBC Master Plan. One proposal to transfer water from the Congo Basin to the Lake Chad, called Transaqua, was submitted to the Lake Chad Basin in 1984 at the height of the most severe drought affecting the Lake Chad Basin. This proposal was approved and shared by the President Mobutu Sese Seko of Congo, formerly Zaire, but was considered too big. Hence, a smaller proposal taking water from River Ubangi to the Lake Chad was adopted by the member state of the Lake Chad Basin Commission on the request of the government of the Central African Republic. Raising an estimated $6 million for the pre-feasibility study of the Ubangi to Lake Chad interbasin water transfer became a challenge until the government of Nigeria, under President Olusegun Obasanjo, provided financial support and launched diplomatic campaign to get the non-objection of the two Congos for the feasibility study to be conducted. The study was awarded to CIMA International in 2009 and was concluded in 2011. The study, in summary, concluded that the Ubangi to Lake Chad interbasin water transfer is technically feasible and economically viable, consisting of two components of a gravity transfer and a pumping transfer from the Polombo dam site on Polombo River and Brea dam site from Brea River. It's also estimated that the transfer will increase the volume of the water in the Lake Chad by at least 1 meter on both the south and the north basins, and translate into increasing the surface area additionally to 5,500 square kilometers over a period of 5 years. The combined cost estimate of the project was then put at 14.5 million US dollars. The result of the study was endorsed by the 14th Summit of the Head of States and Government of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, held on the 30th of April 2012. The installation of the government of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015 opened new opportunities to continue the search for long-term solution for insecurity in the Lake Chad Basin and the Sahel, economic integration of the Central Africa, West Africa, and the Sahel in a new form of African regional partnership. The government of Nigeria, under President Muhammadu Buhari, secured a financial support of $1.8 million from the Chinese and facilitated the engagement of Power China International of China to conduct basic research, to update data, and repackage the interbasin water transfer project from the Congo Basin to the Lake Chad that will inform the best solution to be adopted for the interbasin water transfer. Among the measures taken under the new approach is to convene all stakeholders from the African Union, the ECOWAS, the ECAS, the East African Economic Community, our sister organization CICOS in the Congo Basin, the international partners, and share experiences and engage constructive discussions on how to restore the Lake Chad and promote African peace, security, development, and integration. Restoring the Lake Chad is primarily an African strategic issue. However, whatever action is taken to restore the Lake Chad, the direct beneficiaries are the African people. Today, following the dreams of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and the 32 his fellow heads of state and government, institutions like the African Union, the African Union Commission, and its subsidiaries, such as the regional RECs, are institutions common to us in Africa. In Africa, we also have developed common visions for infrastructure development and the Agenda 2063 for the socio-economic transformation of the African continent, as well as being a building block for achievement of the goals of the 1991 Abuja Treaty on African Economic Community. What the Lake Chad region is requesting is that African leaders should look at the problem of insecurity and the lack of development in the geographical periphery of the Lake Chad region the Sahel, and the Central Africa region, and develop integrated regional approach using African resources to find solutions that will benefit all Africans. We hope the discussions and the result of the International Conference on Lake Chad holding today shall open some new ways of addressing contemporary African problems, while at the same time laying the foundation for future African peace, development, and integration. I wish to conclude by saying and pointing out to our critics that at this stage, the people of the Lake Chad Basin countries are only looking at the technical and economic feasibility of all ideas to restore the Lake Chad. The Chad Basin countries also want to concretize a new partnership with our fellow Africans in the Congo Basin to create a giant transportation, energy, agriculture infrastructure for the Central Africa and the Sahel regions to create jobs for millions of our youth and lay the basis for future development for socio-economic integration, peace, and security in the African continent. There is no solution to the shrinking of the Lake Chad that will not involve recharging the lake with water from outside the basin. The issue, in our opinion, is which option will be the most effective and most beneficial to both the donor and the receiving basin. Therefore, interbasin water transfer is not an option, but a necessity. Otherwise, we are faced with the possibility of the Lake Chad disappearing, and that would be catastrophic to the entire African continent. Poverty, misery, loss of hopes, and the spread of violent extremism, human trafficking, and migration in the Lake Chad Basin, which I have sadly witnessed, has endured for too long. It must come to end. That is the task before all of us who are gathered here today for this historic conference. Let me thank and appreciate His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, for convening this conference, UNESCO for accompanying us, and all our technical and financial partners who have continued to support us to see that we salvage the Lake Chad. Long live sub-regional cooperation. Long live African solidarity. Je vous remercie pour votre amiable attention.
Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we've heard it all from the Executive Secretary of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, Engineer Sanusi Imran Abdullahi, who has just given us an overview, saving the Lake Chad, prospects, challenges, and opportunities to involve security, collaboration, cooperation. We thank you very much indeed. At this point, I'd like to recognize a very important member of this august body, the representative of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, is represented by his Deputy Governor, Honorable Mamman Dankwa. Are you seated in the House, sir? We want to thank you for coming. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. This is very crucial to your area of the country, and it is good to see that His Excellency decided that it's important for you to represent him at the very highest level. We welcome you and we thank you for coming. At this point, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to remind you that the various rooms for all the various parallel and technical sessions coming up later in the day will be announced just before the vote of thanks by my colleague, Mr. Cyril Stober, at some point. At this point, I'd like him to do both of us a huge honor of inviting the next important excellency to this podium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eugenia. And just before we do that, just a quick reminder that the translations of the proceedings here are available in French and Arabic. And of course, where you do have a French speaker, the translations will be in English. Thank you very much. Now, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us now to listen to the opening address by His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, and this has been presented by His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, GCON, SAM.
Thank you very much. Please sit. The Chairman, Senate Committee on Water Resources, Senator Ubale Shitu, the Chairman, House Committee on Interparliamentary Committee on the Lake Chad, the Honorable Sabo Garba, Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Borno State, Mohammed Dakwa, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, host, the Honorable Minister of Water Resources, Engineer Suleiman Adamu, and all members of the Federal Executive Council present, the Deputy Director General of UNESCO, Mr. Getachew Ngida, the keynote speaker, Engineer Sanusi Imran Abdullahi, Executive Secretary of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, Your Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, development partners, representatives of international organizations present, delegates to this conference, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the government and people of Nigeria, I am delighted to welcome you all to this crucial conference on the Lake Chad with the appropriate theme, and I quote, "Saving the Lake Chad to revitalize the basin's ecosystem for sustainable livelihood, security, and development," end of quote. We meet at this conference to deepen local and international awareness of the existential threat to probably over 40 million people in the nations straddled by the Lake Chad, the republics of Chad, Nigeria, Cameroon, and Niger, and also the Central African Republic, who depend on this water body for their livelihoods. Once the 6th largest lake in the world, providing fresh water and supporting fishing and livestock for so many countries for centuries, the Lake Chad River Basin has now shrunk, we're told, by 90% of its size, from a peak of 25,000 square kilometers to currently somewhere in the region of about 1,350 square kilometers. The implications of this are grave indeed. As the lake has shrunk and desertification has intensified, large numbers of people once dependent on the lake for livelihood, for fishing, for irrigation, for farming, and drinking water for cattle have been left bereft. Migration and resettlement have intensified. Farmers and fishermen have been confronted with leaner harvests, and pastoralists have been compelled to venture farther in search of food and water for their cattle. That foray deeper southwards has led to deadly clashes in Nigeria and in parts of West Africa between herdsmen and farmers. Not surprisingly, the northeast of Nigeria and the far west of the Chad, where the lake is located, have in the past several years been the epicenter of Boko Haram insurgency. The insurgents have been able to draw recruits from a desperate, idle, and yet growing youth population. But this ecological catastrophe is only one side of the story. The other side of this is the determined and commendable work going on to redress it and rewrite the fate of the Lake Chad Basin and its people. The last 30 years have seen multinational efforts at halting the decline of the lake and replenishing it. These include, one, plans by the Commission's member countries to replenish the lake by pumping water from the Congo Basin through the Ubangi River and then on to the Lake Chad. The feasibility study of this interbasin water transfer from the Congo River to the lake, which was supported by Nigeria with a grant of $5 million. And three, the approval and implementation of the Lake Chad Basin's Commission Strategic Action Program in 2008 and its implementation, the creation and fundraising for a 5-year investment plan, 2013 to 2017, aimed at safeguarding the ecosystem of the basin. In 2012, the Lake Chad Basin Commission, the LCBC Summit of Heads of State and Governments, adopted the Lake Chad Basin Water Charter as a legal instrument for sustainable water management of the lake. All LCBC member countries have ratified the charter, except perhaps for 2 countries, which are in the process of doing so. And most recently, the LCBC member countries have, with support from the World Bank and the French Development Agency, prepared the Lake Chad Development and Climate Resilience Action Plan, LCDAP, for the period covering 2016 to 2025. Your Excellencies, this international conference is therefore just a follow-up to all of these previous efforts and interventions. Over the next 2 days, this conference will see experts from around the world deliberate on a wide range of issues relating to the current state and the future prospects of the Lake Chad, the Lake Chad water transfer, and other interventions targeted at restoring the lake, regional cooperation for peace and security, and funding and investment approaches. This, we hope, will produce a roadmap that will guide the all-important decision-making of the high-level meeting, which is scheduled, as you know, for Wednesday. I'm particularly delighted that the international community is beginning to see the Lake Chad Basin issue as a challenge with global implications, but also taking steps to actively support the efforts of member countries of the Lake Chad Basin Commission. We must therefore thank the United Nations and its agencies, especially UNESCO, which is a co-organizer of this conference, the African Development Bank, the World Bank, and other development partners. Our gratitude also goes to the Lake Chad Basin Commission and the International Commission of the Congo-Ubangi-Sangha Basin, CICOS, as well as other participating nations for the collective resolve and the political will to tackle the environmental challenges affecting the Lake Chad. Let me also extend appreciation to Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Water Resources and the Federal Ministry of the Environment, who have jointly spearheaded Nigeria's efforts regarding the restoration of Lake Chad. The cooperation and collaboration that underpins the efforts to save the Lake Chad must not be allowed to flag. The world will pay a steep price if stakeholders choose to resort to unilateral actions and the pursuit of selfish interests if we collectively fail to rise boldly to this challenge. Let me therefore use this opportunity to solicit even greater regional, continental, and international support for this cause. We must, as a matter of necessity, also put greater effort into the inclusion and integration of local communities and civil society groups in the design and implementation of the interventions for the restoration of the Lake Chad Basin. Your Excellencies, let me assure you of the unflagging commitment of Nigeria, a founding member of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, and the country with the largest number of people affected by the fortunes of Lake Chad, and perhaps the biggest contributor to its funding needs so far. to supporting the implementation of the outcomes of this conference and the restoration of the Lake Chad Basin. Saving the Lake Chad is pulling our region back from a major economic, social, and ecological disaster. Saving the Lake Chad is restoring and preserving the livelihoods of millions, but perhaps more importantly, preserving a resource that will be crucial to the economic sustenance and security of the fastest growing population in the world. While I thank you all for listening and wishing you very fruitful deliberations, it is now my very special honor and privilege to declare this conference open. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the presentation of His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, duly represented by His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Highlights have been Nigeria's unflagging commitment to the implementation of the results of this international conference. Highlights have been that Nigeria is the largest beneficiary of the fortunes of Lake Chad, and therefore it's imperative that we must pay attention. And a lot of words came to use, including as a matter of necessity. Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President, representing the President of Nigeria, would like to thank you, sir. Erudite as ever. At this point, I'd like to invite to the podium the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Water Resources, Dr. Ibrahim Musa, to deliver the vote of thanks.
His Excellency, our own very agile, hardworking and mobile Vice President, please permit me to stand on the already established protocols. It is an honor and privilege for me to give the vote of thanks at this very important occasion that is organized to find lasting solutions to the challenge of the receding Lake Chad. As we are all aware, the drying lake has far-reaching socio-economic and political implications, some of which have already been highlighted. This international conference